hold on, Daddy. And I went down and picked it up, and I heard my mother's voice go, all is well, it will be okay. And Daddy was up around the corner. He goes, I have to go. I must go now. And I'm like, wait a minute, wait. And the phone rang beside our bed. And my husband picked it up, and my mother said, Earhart just passed. He just left.
Goodness.
And I'm like, no, close my eyes. I was just with him. This is how I know you're going into some other place. Mm-hmm. And we don't know what that place is, but we know that it's a glorious place. And we're here, and take advantage of the time you're here.
Hi there, welcome to the Perfect Day podcast. I am Koki Barini, your Perfect Day wealth engineer, and I have the best company here in the house because we're here with Chief Magic Maker, Christine Osborne, and she just showed me how to do this. Am I going to be able to do it now?
Yeah.
This is a magic. Oh, what does that mean?
That means
if he goes that way.
You have a lot of magic going on.
That means a lot of magic, because yours is pretty level. Okay.
Yeah, you can put it on your nose, and you can put it on your computer, on books, on corners of desks, but it's a magic dragonfly made in Vietnam, handmade. All of them are handmade. It's really pretty cool.
And I love that this is the first thing that you gave me, because we're going to make magic here today. Mm-hmm. We have listeners that can benefit so much from your over 30 years in the specialty toy industry. 4 locations, a wealth of knowledge. I know you've got the major successes in there. I know you've got the struggles in there. Mm-hmm. The best of which is you have an amazing story of, I would call it a thread. I've heard you speak before. I was drawn to you because of your story, but I was also drawn to you because you're such a giver. And there's been many people here in our community that I know you've mentored to. Where did that spirit of mentorship come and giving back come from? And what is this thread that you would say is weaved through your 30 years of being in the magic business?
My parents are German, and so they immigrated after World War II. And my dad actually flew for the Luftwaffe. And we would ask him, you flew against Americans? And he said, yeah, Americans were scared of my lights. And he was a real comic. He was awesome. He was a mechanical engineer. And my mother spoke like 5 different languages, and she did some assistant type of work, and then she ended up raising us, and they moved to Maine, and then I was born there, and shortly thereafter went to Clemson. But my mother always did Girl Scouting. She always did giving. We always did things in the community with the church, and we were always making things and giving things away. And I started working when I was 10 years old. Babysitting, like kids babysitting. The mother watches in the other room when they're 8 or so. And I found out that I loved working with Down syndrome kids. And their hearts were so giving. And they would give you anything. And they are angels. They're really, truly angels. So that whole giving concept and giving spirit, it's like you feel great when you give back. Mm-hmm. And we didn't get much. My parents were German, so it's 1 pair of shoes a year. It's maybe 2 or 3 dresses and you let them out, you do this. My father, we never bought anything twice. If it was furniture or materials, he would just fix it. Mm-hmm. He was a mechanical engineer. So it was like we learned about giving and doing things with people, not really so much getting, because it ended up that it made me feel good if I could see a smile on somebody's face, if I could make them something. And with those children, they all wanted to give you everything they had. And that was age 10 I started with that, and I've been working since that time.
How did you happen? I'm just curious about the Down syndrome. Like, how was the exposure?
I was a camp
happenstance
counselor.
or?
I was a camp counselor. We heard about this camp called Camp Alert in Clemson, South Carolina, and Clemson University was hooked up to it, and I went, and they're like, "You're really young, Christine, for a CIT." But I'm like, and my mother was like,
Tell listeners what a CIT is.
Counselor in training.
Okay.
And my mom, being German, was like, just give her a shot for a week. And then they're like, oh my gosh, she's taking over this playground activity. She's doing these craft classes, whatever. And the kids they flock around you and they give you so much love. And you're like, how can you not want to be around that? And how can you not want to help them? And so from that, I ended up doing Girl Scouts, and I was very nerdy. And I was like obsessive compulsive, and that's one of my quirks. And everybody's got quirks. And what I've learned is you embrace your quirks, you recognize what they are, you talk about them, because in the end and later in life, when you're in times of trial, they've gotten me out of so many business situations that I've gotten in trouble with, just major. When my business partner passed away, all sorts of things. Right now, the Toys R Us closed. The economy's changing. People are buying online. You know,
so how did your quirks get you out of those? Because those are struggles. Those are big. I mean, we have listeners who, might be facing cash flow challenges or what type of partnership entity should I, or business entity, tax filing status should I have? I mean, you're talking about big stuff here. Partners dying.
And I ended up, it's very unusual but everybody's got them. I ended up graduating from the College of Charleston. No, I went to College of Charleston for 2 years and then Medical University for occupational therapy. And I went down here from Clemson because my parents moved to Clemson. And then I grew up in Clemson, a very tiny town. And I would come down here at age 14, 15, 16, 17 to visit with the occupational therapy department at Medical University,
right,
where I'd sit in front of this little nerdy German girl and find out if I was doing the right things so that I could get into the program after I went to the College of Charleston. And so it was all those little things of the compulsiveness, doing things, being a Girl Scout, doing your badges, helping your teachers in class when they wanted to do bulletin boards and nobody would volunteer, being the person during recess that the teacher would embrace and say, will you tutor these kids because they're needing a little bit of extra help during recess, and knowing that the kids made fun of me because of the clothes I wore were German on the playground field. And that's a whole nother story because the thread ends up weaving around that. So when you embrace that, you end up having, which you don't realize, a framework of support and friends and people that are looking at you and they're like, I'm going to be a friend with this person. This person's a little bit like me. I'm going to protect this child. I'm a teacher. I'm going to protect this child because she's got amazing skills and she's going to do amazing things in the future.
It's flying your flag and flying it high and proud, right?
It is.
And I talk about this in the book. I call it your you-ness. I mean, if we need to embrace our you-ness as opposed to saying, oh, this is a quirk or this is a default or a defect, rather, like let's don't wave it. Let's don't show it. Let's try and put on different clothes as opposed to the...
Well, I noticed that you have Harbor Forum, the entrepreneur thing on the back of your notebook there. And
there it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're all about entrepreneurs. Yeah. One of the toughest things is to get money. When you start a business, how are you going to start?
You've got a great story about your first load.
Well,
or is that where you're going?
You were like, it's perfect because I'm like, here I am with I'd worked at a hospital here, and always be true to yourself and always be true to people you're with. So when I interviewed, I was at Medical University and worked there. My dream job was for Down syndrome, and it was frozen by the governor. So life didn't go.
The position was frozen.
Yep. Position was frozen at Ladson Center.
Life happened.
It happened, and I'm like, that's not how my little German nerdy compulsive world works. And then I realized life happens. So I ended up working at Medical University and then took a job at Southern Pines Psychiatric Hospital to start a occupational therapy program. And one of the neatest things is when I interviewed, I did not jive with the interviewer. He was like, how many workbenches do you want at this new private? And I'm like, I'm an occupational therapist. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, sir, but we're on a different wavelength. We do, relaxation, assertiveness training, stress management. But good luck with that. You're going to do great. The hospital's going to be great. And I walked out saying, and I was very honest with him. And I walked out of my head going, he's very strange. And I'm so glad I don't see him again. And then 2 days later, he calls and says, you have the job. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, we didn't really exactly hit it off. He goes, no, you were the only person who told me the truth.
Wow.
Being honest and that quirkiness, and it may be not having tact, but saying it as best as you can say. And my husband says, Christine, you are German. And my husband, we've been married 38 years. Wayne Osborne, married him. I met him at the College of Charleston. It was awesome. When I was a freshman, he was a senior. But it's like, and 3 grandbabies later, and another 4th coming, and 2 boys, and daughter-in-laws. But it's like all of that just kind of weaves in there. And we ended up, when I started the hospital, after that, it ended up getting sold. And I was asked to move to another town. And administrator was the gentleman who had hired me. And so I got a phone call. He's like, what do you think about a store that we've seen in the past when we had to do these dog and pony shows for the oil corporation? And he said, I love telescopes. That's my thing. I said, I love science. Our spouses were like, y'all are nerdy. Nobody would like it. Well, that's what every banker in town said. We went to 4.
Wow.
And they're like, this is so nerdy, nobody's gonna like it. Even though we added nature, our spouses were like, add nature to it, like Nature Company. So, and we didn't really have a retail background, but we knew that there was nothing like that in town. There were like 9 doll stores on King Street at that time, 9. And there wasn't all this science and neat things for boys and nature and all that. So fast forward, the last banker, we walked and opened the doors, and there sits Frank Smith, my teacher in 6th grade, who had me mentor the children in the class, my friends who need a little bit of help.
Right.
And she was protecting me from being, chastised or made fun of. And he looked at me and he goes, I'm Frank Smith. You know I'm Louise's husband, and we relocated here from Clemson. I am the bank, and what are you doing here, Christine Steeple? And he goes,
Like,
my
you
wife
asked
has
for it?
always wondered what happened with you and knew that you would make a success of something that you do. And I said, well, we're actually doing this. He goes, he opened the checkbook and said, how much you want?
Yeah.
The universe comes around, and those quirks, if I hadn't, it just all comes around. Same thing happened when my business partner passed away, and he passed away of cancer. We started the store, and then maybe fast forward 14 years later or whatever, and he says, I'm dying of pancreatic cancer. And he said, we're 1/3 of the floor is telescopes. And you're like, I don't know that much about telescopes. You're the telescope weenie. And he goes, you find your passion, Christine. He said, you will continue to be successful here.
Which it sounds like you weren't going to have much trouble with that, because that seems to be, again, the theme through everything, is you just knowing thyself and being true to thyself and just, flaunting your quirks. I have trouble calling them quirks because I don't see you as quirky. I see you as
unique. The things that make you different.
Yes.
That people are like, oh, that's strange. It isn't strange.
Yeah.
It's who you are.
Right. Right.
And so we ended up, Jamie Haley came from Low Country Local First. That's why I was talking about the harbor. They're wonderful organizations in town. Jamie changed my life. Mm-hmm. You're not a mom and pop, Christine. Mm-hmm. She said, every dollar you spend in local business makes 3 for the community, and if you put something locally made, it makes 6. So you know how impactful that is economically? It's not going up to the Walmarts in the sky or Arkansas or wherever, and she was very, very honest about it, and I'm like, local. I've never really carried that much local. And that happened a week before Dan's funeral, and the day after Dan's funeral, in walks a child, Down syndrome, with a piece of pottery, and he can't look at me. He is 14 years old. He's the son of Helen, Royal, and Mike, and they are out of West Ashley, have 6 children. They're wonderful people. And a Down syndrome child comes, and I was going to work at Ladson Center, and I've not worked with Down syndrome since then, and they're my love. And he couldn't look at me, and he said, will you sell this? And the pottery was gorgeous. And I'm like, absolutely. And Jamie had just seeded it with, it's going to make every dollar on that piece of pottery is going to make 6 for the community. How can you not do that? I'm like, thank you. And we did a whole local section.
And so was it out with telescopes and in with pottery?
It was in with, it was. And then we walked in next day, John Gantz walking down the sidewalk, and he had this Charleston hooker in his hand. And I'm like, and he's 85 years old. And I loved geriatric folks when I was younger. Instead of riding my bike, I would ride my bike in Clemson.
My youngest is like that.
I would go sit with my neighbors who were geriatric, and I'd make wash their clothes or empty their dishwasher or make their bed because they hadn't done it that day, and I'd help them. I liked helping people because it made them feel good. And so I stopped, and it was right there on the sidewalk at West Ashley. It's just blessed. Those stores are so blessed. It's the oldest shopping center all of Charleston.
Where's
there
this?
are churches all around St. Andrew's Shopping Center with the Coburg Dairy Cow. And, and he said, it's a Charleston hooker, it's a grilling tool, and I make them. And he became my mentor. He mentored me for 3 years.
What year was this, approximately?
Gosh, I want to say probably we started the store in 90, so it had to have been in 2004, 5, around that. And he had just sold his business to Urban Electric. I had no idea that he was the #1 lantern maker in all of Charleston. In the United States, he made all the lanterns at the White House. He refurbished 99% of the lanterns here.
He's walking down the street, and you befriended him, and here he is, your mentor.
And he's like...
Ask for help.
Yep.
Ask for help.
You ask for help. You ask the universe. You ask for help. It comes. And sure enough, it just started the geriatric, my quirkiness with the elderly, my quirkiness with Down syndrome. Going out there on a limb, Charleston hooker.
Your quilt. Yeah.
I mean, what toy store in the world is going to sell a Charleston hooker? Seriously. It is a solid, it's a solid oak.
Oh, yeah, they're
it's a
beautiful.
Handle, and they're beautiful. They're grilling.
Google
and we sell
it. They're beautiful.
Thousands.
Go to wonderworks.com. Look it up.
And they have the butt grabber. They have the holy shish kebab, the shrimp zipper. All this stuff that...
You can find those on your site, yes?
Okay. Yeah, on our website. And we do. WonderWorks has a website.
Yes.
But the local stuff ended up, and then the children started coming. And all this started happening, and the children were coming. And what I learned is from George Stevens with Coastal Community Foundation. He ended up saying, if you praise a child, you provide a child who's doing something philanthropic, you praise them, they're going to do it 3 to 6 times more. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I went and dug in a box that I had, as a pack rat I am. And here's this award I got in, I don't know, I was 13 years old. And I'd gotten some award for doing something for Girl Scouts, for the community. And I'm like, dang it, he was right. And so we never tell a child no. Well, you just don't. And the children started coming and coming and coming, and they ended up doing T-shirts and donating their proceeds. Haley Schmidt to Art with a Heart in Florida. Then we had the 3 dudes donating their profits and proceeds from their,
near
CDs.
And dear to my heart is William Manzi and his fly tying and creating the foundation for his grandfather, funding the foundation for Walker Davis at the Medical University. So.
And Harper Drolet, all these kids have my heart. Harper looked at me, and she was a pixie little girl with a smile, bob cut, and she was 10. She goes, well, you weren't helping us very much at Medical University because I'm living there all the time because of my cancer. And she said, and we need toys, and I'm not talking about the 200 toys, we're talking about thousands we need. So what are you going to do? And I put my hands on my hip, and I looked at her, and I said, well, what are you going to do? We're going to do it together.
Nice.
And, little kids like this, she goes, there's something called Facebook that just got invented. And she said, I have an idea. And then my dear friend Pam Hartley from Momentum Marketing,
I know Pam very
she
well.
was able
Thank you.
to, I called her and she's on it and she's like, let's do a video and for every toy you donate. And Harper was like, you're gonna give a toy, Miss Christine? And I said, I'll give you 7 days on the Facebook and every click for your little story, Harper, I'll get you a toy. And she said, I want plush. I said, you can get whatever toy you want, I will get it for you. And I didn't know how's that going to work. Well, 7 days later, 10,000 toys later. 10,000 clicks.
Wow.
And she's like, where are my toys? 10,000 toys for the medical university. So we ended up, and within 3 months, we ended up getting all those toys. And that's her legacy. And the children in the city know Harper Drolet. They know that legacy because it sustained that Happy Wheels card at medical university years and years and years to come.
But the bottom line is, you said yes.
Yes.
And we have to go to break. I loved ending on you saying yes and just how that campaign impacted so many people's lives.
It is.
It's just so special. Thank you.
Yeah.
When we come back, I want to talk and brag about what may seem dark and gloomy, but you'll see through this. But we're gonna talk about your epitaph when we come back. So we've got Christine Osborne here with Wonderworks. She is the chief magic maker and undoubtedly making a perfect day for me and the listeners out there today. So back in a moment. And when people ask me, do you love being cold? No, I hate being cold. I hate being cold. But when you're prepared for it, you've got everything you need. So I'm not always cold, but I did go back through my journal, my diary before I prepared this, and there were days I was cold. So this is us above that wall and heading to high camp. And not all the pictures are that beautiful because this is high camp. It's like, you can tell it's pretty bleak, right? I don't know, you can't really tell with the definition of the slides, but we have to build these ice caves. So you have to block out ice. And so not only do you get the pleasure of carrying, 60 to 80 to 100 pounds, then when you get there, you get to dig out and build snow caves to put your tents in. So it's not always pretty, but when you get there, talk about gratitude. I said I climb because it reminds me of these things. It reminds me of your big muscles. I can't tell you how thankful I was to get to this high camp. I almost got this sense of, if the weather cooperates, I think I'm going to summit this mountain. And this mountain is my Everest. I mean, Everest, by all accounts, people say is a super dangerous and hard mountain, and that's true. But Denali's unassisted. Denali, you've got weight on your back, and you're really having to do everything for yourself. So it's this is sort of a benchmark that if you get there, you've done it. Welcome back to Perfect Day Podcast. We have got Chief Magic Engineer. I just made that up.
I love it.
Yeah,
I'm
right?
Daddy.
Because you are. You are. Christine Osborne of Wonderworks. And we, on break, are talking a little bit about epitaph values and the exercise that I sometimes engage with entrepreneurs about writing their own epitaph. And you know what? Of all of those I've worked with in this exercise, yours is beautiful. And what I mean by that is sometimes there's a disconnect between what you want to have said about you at your funeral and what's actually happening. You've already achieved all that you'd want to have said at your funeral. Maybe there's a few things, maybe there's a few other things. I mean, from your family to the awards to the grandchildren and to the just all the accolades with Wonderworks and beyond. So what are some of the things that are going to be said? I mean, we had, I'll just do a lead in with the MSNBC, was it Business of the Year and the Retailer Awards. Come on, let's hear you brag.
WonderWorks has been very, very blessed. So we've been
I knew you would
around-
say that.
We have been so blessed, and it's the community. It's not us. It's the community. It's them embracing us. It's them coming to us, liking the nature, liking the science.
But I think
growing it.
I think what our listeners need to hear, though, is that you didn't choose money and profits. You chose impact and people. You chose people.
When you end up looking at businesses, a lot of people, and I don't have a business background, I have an occupational therapy background, which is a health background. So it's caring and loving and learning, and it's like, and growing. And it's always growing, always doing better, always giving. And so those are the type of people that I hire, and that's the type of things we do in our business with the twinkle in our eye. So our average ticket sale is $21. It may at Christmas go up to 41, but most retail establishments, clothing may be 200, jewelry may be 2,000 an average ticket sale. We're nowhere near that. Think about how many toys you have to sell just to pay a light bill for one of the stores,
Right.
So it does come down to tough choices at times to figure out how to make that go, and utilizing your quirks to have those local sections, the gift sections. We just opened up our gift section and expanding our local section, and we did away with the birthday room because the birthday party room was being used maybe 5% of the week, and 95% it was vacant, and I'm paying a fourth rent on it. It's not a good, wise business decision. Any of my business mentors would tell me that.
But I love what you're highlighting is that, yes, finance is a part of it.
It is.
It's a part about being a successful entrepreneur, but it's not the first part.
And the passion and what makes you passionate, and I was telling you earlier, before we started, is that somebody's passionate when they start talking to you and your eyes glaze over. And they're just talking on and on and on. You're like,
Right.
they're talking car motors to you.
Yeah.
It's like, but that's when they're
Correct.
passionate, and you don't ever want to squelch that. We have a kid at the store who's passionate about, or an adult who's passionate about Pokemon. And he just is on and on and on and on about it, and he just can't quit telling me about it. And you love all that, and then he ends up teaching the kids, and then there's all the economic value of trading and all that they end up learning. So the epitaph, when you're looking at, but you can't take money with you anyway,
Right.
and
It's what your impact is.
It is.
And here's what I think you have that the typical entrepreneur does not have. It really just sounds like from a very young age, you have been consistently attuned to and dialed into your value and your you-ness. And so your passion wasn't fleeting. It's not like you decided you liked Down syndrome, or that you decided you liked the toy business because of the margins.
Yeah.
It was rooted in a passion that's been inside of you and that is evergreen and will never change. And I think all too often, sometimes it takes stepping off of that hamster wheel, that proverbial, I have no time, and I have no, lack of time, lack of money, busy, 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 and I don't have the clarity, I don't have the vision of who I am and what I want. Is there something that you could speak to in that respect?
When you make a difference in the life of a child, it's like a medical university with Sean Jenkins Children's Hospital. You think of all those kids that have treatment coming, and whenever somebody comes in the store to get a toy, I'm like, here's a card, and it's my business card, and I write on it, this child is allowed to come in as much as he wants and pick out whatever he wants for diversional therapy during treatment or rehab afterwards. And I give it to them and say, give it to the mother, and the kids come in, and making a difference in the life of a child, that they remember that they got through that chemotherapy because their serotonin level was up and they felt better because they were playing with a squishy squad, or they were hugging a jelly cat, or they were hugging a Thai Beanie Boo. That is worth a Jaguar. That is worth a Porsche. That is worth a lake house to me. That stuff is not important.
Right.
This stuff that a child can remember, and you never know, that child will come back around and come to you and go, I bought an architect kit from you. You helped me with this in the store. I'm an architect now, and I would love to design something for you with this. And it all comes around, and you can't plan that.
Right.
It's the universe is in full throttle, going the whole time, guiding you.
And if you're not in tune, because I've seen this too, if you're not in tune with the universe, or you're not hearing the messages, and you're not feeling the passion, should that entrepreneur exit?
You know, when you have something in your stomach, in your gut, you have to listen to it. When they know that they're burnt out, when they know that they're not passionate about it anymore, it means that the part of the business that they went into it for, and I have to remember this because Toys R Us closed down. The toy industry is at a interesting point. We're helping a lot of entrepreneurs develop products, and we're helping them fast and furious, and I have a little secret formula to getting it out in specialty market and in the mass and in the nation of neat items. So it's like you have to find that thing about it with your business that made you get in it in the first place and kind of gear it back around to that and look at what it was you did and why, and then do the other things. And if it means you have to scale your business back. I talked to a gentleman who was doing electrical work the other day, and he was beside one of my locations, and I said, how's it going? He said, I had 20 people, now I have 4. I'm happier than I've ever been because I'm doing the thing I used to love.
Amen. I love that.
He said, I was a manager and now I don't do that anymore. He said,
right.
And now I'm doing solar panels, and he's an amazing guy. And he goes, I'm helping people, they're saving money on this. He said, I feel like I'm making a major difference, you know, in the green space and everything. He said, I just feel so good about what I'm doing in life now.
It's a life-driven business and not a business-driven life.
Oh, that's so good. I love that.
So kudos to him.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, designing
I love that.
your business to fit your life and that intuition and that gut is not an easy thing to do. It's brave. You got to be super brave.
You do, and to talk about it. You
Yeah.
have to talk about it. And I talk with my staff when I make mistakes, and I make mistakes, you know. I ended up having a warehouse and corporate office, and we closed it last year because we were looking at Amazon and providing for Amazon, toys for Amazon, because we had a warehouse. We could do it. Well, you can't make money that way. I did everything I could, but with the labor and all of that, it's just taking away from the stores and the community. And that's not what we're brick and mortar. We're experiential. We're where you go in.
Yeah.
And like Melissa and Doug just came to us, and I love Melissa. She's awesome. Doug's great too. But Melissa's
You know
like,
Melissa and Doug.
yeah,
That's so fun.
No, she is like this tall. She's got 8 kids. She's awesome. And she's like, we want you to do a store within a store because you did this for Mattel last year. And we were the first in the nation. And I'm like, okay, I'll get to it. And she goes, no, we're going to do it soon. And so we ended up just doing it. We turned it into a play experiential zone. And it's in our Mount Pleasant store and West Ashley store. You have nurseries where kids, boys and girls, go in there and change the diaper on the babies, change the clothes on the babies. They feed the babies. It's a veterinarian station. It's got the grocery store, all that.
Yeah.
The kids go in there and play. It's hands-on. And it's experiential.
Yeah.
And Melissa, I'm like, why are you going to us? And she said, because you're going to do it, Christine. And she said, you're going to do it better than we could even do it, and that we even want you to do it. And
No,
sure enough,
that's something for your epitaph. You're
she
going to do
said-
it better than we would have done it.
She said, and her folks left, and I'm like, this looks great. We're going to have to boost this up. We're going to have to take their other products here and put it here and here. And
Yeah.
it's like you see, but it's like, they're awesome. Melissa and Doug come out with unbelievable stuff. And it doesn't matter that they're in the mass market. It doesn't matter that they're in a Walgreens or a Rural Ace Hardware. It matters that children in the nation get access to it, you know? And that when they do get to come to WonderWorks, they know what Melissa and Doug is, you know?
Right.
Same thing with Mattel. Then we're able to focus on the Swerfers and Rob Birchie and the local folks and help them with the Today Show, Good Morning America. You know, Shark Tank Amazing was just on there, and we did that for Christmas. But yeah, Epitaph, it's about a journey. It's about, and you're on Earth this long. You really are. And I had a little something happen with my father. He passed away about 4 years ago, and made a major impact on me. German, gregarious, fun. Everybody loved my dad. And before he was passing, I looked at him and I said, with the Germans, I said, you didn't have guns on your planes when you were with the Luftwaffe. And he goes, I had lights, Christine. Americans were scared of lights. And I said that like the last night I saw him.
Like
and
you just had to know.
I had to know. And
like,
he was like,
kill
and
Americans?
That was it. That was it.
Yeah.
And he's so great. And then I said, come see me before you go. Well, I went home, laid in the bed, and he had congestive heart failure. And I was sleeping and I was dreaming, and the dream was interrupted, and my father is flying beside me, and he said, let's go, come Christine. And our arms were out, and we're going down the hill at Clemson University, where we went to the Cowboys, and we would be the nerdy German family riding a bike in a row every Sunday up and down the hills. They saw the Steeple family.
Yeah.
And we went flying down the hill, and we were going up the hill, and we were wee and fun, and you're talking, but not in a verbal. It was a strange type of communication. And I saw a round thing on the ground, and I said, "Hold on, Daddy." And I went down and picked it up, and I heard my mother's voice go, "All is well. It will be okay." And Daddy was up around the corner. He goes, "I have to go. I have to go. I must go now." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, wait." And the phone rang beside our bed. And my husband picked it up, and my mother said, Earhart just passed. He just left.
Goodness.
And I'm like, no, close my eyes. I was just with him. I was just with him. This is how I know you're going into some other place. Mm-hmm. And we don't know what that place is, but we know that it's a glorious place. And we're here, and take advantage of the time you're here. Mm-hmm. You're here to do something. You're here to make a difference. You're here to learn something and make that difference. And if you can figure out what that is, your life is going to be better.
Right.
It's going to be better.
And what I love to bring Perfect Day into that light is that over the decades I've been doing this, the hardship that I've seen of entrepreneurs who start businesses and chase the almighty dollar and think that that's what it's about, and they forsake their experiences and they forsake their relationships. You know, that epitaph exercise is really one of, has it been a life well lived? Because it's not just about the business. It's not just about the widget or your tax return. It's not what that looks like.
Your tax return, that bank account is closed up. You go on to the next year.
Yeah.
You don't even remember it.
Correct.
And it doesn't. It's the people you meet.
So it's the transforming, and I'm trying to, and I appreciate your story, because people don't want to hear me say it. People want to see people like yourself and hear people like yourself who are living it or experiencing these perfect days. I mean, half the people I look at are like, perfect day? Deer in the headlights. Like, is it even possible? Like, it's absolutely possible to be an entrepreneur and have perfect days every single day. So with that, I loathe having to say that we're out of time, because I think we could talk easily for another hour. I want to play Spin the Book.
Okay.
And you're going to be a pro at it. So spin the book. Tell me what page you land on, and let's. I love it. She's actually spinning. That's great.
I love it. And then we're going.
Vanna was a local South Carolinian. Yeah. So right. So where did you land?
Oh, okay. Let me go. All right. We're going to look at vulnerability is the key. Working with the vision, focuser, and asset inventory often reveals to the client. Those are my sweet spots. Vulnerability, who you are, who your quirks are. That's who you are.
I think that you are.
That's the key. Oh my gosh.
I think you are the expert in vulnerability. And I felt it the first time I saw you. Yeah. And I and many entrepreneurs owe you many thanks for all of your vulnerabilities, because it makes us okay. It makes us like, wow, she did it. And you share all your struggles.
Yeah.
And I think that whether it's you're a business owner or just a person, talking about our weaknesses and our failures is super important. Our greatest failures, I think, are our greatest successes.
You'll never do them again. And if you do...
Oh, I hope you don't say that. I was just going to say one of my failures, I should have, yesterday would have been my 19th wedding anniversary. And And albeit we divorced a few years ago, I will say that it's one of my greatest successes, is us having successfully navigated this. But I do hope I don't hope I get divorced again, but I do hope there's love and marriage in the future. But,
Just
all of that
embrace
is a
them.
shout out for those who talk about divorce, who talk about failed partnerships. My failed partnership was one of my greatest successes in business. And maybe shutting down your warehouse is one of the greatest
Shutting down the
successes you've
warehouse.
ever done.
Yeah,
And
you
saying,
gotta talk
bye-bye,
about it.
Amazon, so sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazon was probably one of your greatest successes. Like,
Yeah.
wow, we're doing business with Amazon.
And then you're
And
like,
now look, yeah.
yeah.
So with Chief Magic Maker and major local impact in toy market disruptor, I've just been so honored by you being with us on the show.
I'm humbled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Christine Osborne for with Wonderworks. We didn't even go into all of your epitaph and your resume of all the accolades and all the amazing things you've done and the lives you've impacted, from Down syndrome to the medical university to the potters and the toy makers and individuals. So thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us here on the Perfect Day podcast, and sending you many perfect days, Christine.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you.